everybody. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, I'm Kyle Nielsen. I'm a social studies teacher in Henderson, Nevada. I teach at a charter school here, and I've been teaching mostly 7th grade for a couple of years now. This is my 7th year as a teacher. It's my 4th year teaching here in Henderson. So, and my 4th year using Edulastic. So I thought maybe I would just tell you a little bit about how I came to Edulastic. I found I was challenged by my principal actually to find better ways. Well, he challenged all of us as a school, find better ways to incorporate depth of knowledge questions into our assessment and our instruction. And he also asked us to, even though we're social studies and there's not really a state standardized test for social studies, he asked us all to help out to prepare kids for our SBAC, which is our state standardized test. So I went looking for a tool. Whenever I have a new thing I have to do, I try to find a technology tool that will help me do it better. So I went looking for a tool that could do both of those things, and I found Edulastic pretty quickly. It was one of the first things that came up when I Googled that. I found that I could design test questions that were similar to not only the way a question would be asked on a standardized test, but also the look and feel of the website that the kids use for our test. And I can also, with Edulastic, determine what kind of questions, depth of knowledge questions, I want to ask. So, so that really got me kind of turned on to Edulastic and got me exploring it and investigating it. And what I found also was I loved that it could do so much. Basically everything that other programs I was using, there were, there's Google Forms, there's a quiz feature on Canvas, there's lots of different things, and they all have something great about them. And I found that Edulastic really had all of those aspects. And so I really kind of jumped into Edulastic with both feet. As Jan talked about the real-time progress monitoring, I really love that. I love that I can see as the kids are taking a test, what question, who's on what question, how many kids are left to finish. So it's really changed the way I proctor tests, because I can really kind of get a feel for, okay, looks like we're almost done. Maybe we can move on to some other thing, or we can review something. And it's great because I can pause certain kids and unlock certain kids. If a kid was absent one day, I can unlock just him to take it the next day. So it really helps me do a lot with that. Data, as she showed you that report, I'll show you what it looks like from the student side when they take a test, and I really like that. It gives the student a lot of data back right when they're done of kind of what they can see. So so that's really helpful. And then what I really like to do, well, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that right now. I'd really like to share my screen now, if that's okay, Jan. So this report right here, can everybody see this report, question analysis?
Yes, looks good.
All right, so I'm also the Spanish teacher at my school, and I tried using this program with Spanish, and I took this test, and as you can see from the results right here, very, very disappointing results. An average score of 52%. Clearly the students are not where they need to be. I have 3 classes. This is just one of the classes, and the other 2 classes also looked really disappointing. By the way, I really love this present feature. I'm able to show this to the kids. I can display this right up on the projector on the screen, and without outing anybody, because it's given them a code name. I can say, look, you guys, look at what we did. Look at how little time you spent on each of these questions. Look at, what we did. And same thing when they do a great job. I can say, hey, look at the success we've had. But we have a policy at my school that if half or more of the class does not show proficiency of a 70% or higher, there was something wrong with your instruction. And in this case, that was the case. You need to sit down with your admin. You need to make a plan on what to do. Well, Edulastic was incredibly helpful in this way, because what I could do is I could go to reports and I could go to question analysis. And basically what this did is it took all 3 of my classes and it looked at, okay, what were the questions that they struggled on the most. And so, I didn't have to waste my time reteaching this information up here. I was able to look at, all right, what's the best bang for our buck? these questions right here, I looked at those questions. Sure enough, they all had something in common. They had to do with verb conjugation. If you know anything about Spanish, you know that that's a tough sticking point for students. And so I was able to use that question analysis report really well to just kind of hone in on what I needed to focus on. So it was really helpful in that sense. Did anybody have any questions about that report or anything before I move on to show you some of my favorite question types? All right, well, I'll just go through this real quickly so that we have plenty of time for Nancy, but Jan mentioned different question types. This is one that I like. I really like the labeling of maps like she showed you. So this one is a drop down. So I can have my kids label the physical features, and I'm gonna get some of these right and some of these wrong just so that you can see kind of what happens when you take a test. So some of these we'll mess up on just for fun, see what happens. All right, so the kids can, there's the drop down option. There's the drag and drop option. So I did this with teaching about Native American cultures. So you can see, you can determine whether they can see these boxes or not. For me, I find it's helpful that they can see where they need to drag it to, but sometimes it might be in your best interest to not do that. And then these essay questions I find especially helpful. I especially like on the teacher end that you can see a rubric and it makes grading very quick and painless. As you can see, you can easily put an image in here, put a question along with it, and then there's an opportunity for students to type their response. Once again, a drag and drop. So we're talking about European exploration of North America. You can see which European nations came to which places. Let's get this wrong on purpose just for fun. Now this one allows them to type the response. So I found a lot of students do pretty well with multiple choice or drag and drop, but when I've actually asked them to produce something genuinely from them, they have a hard time. How do you spell Philadelphia? So you can add a little bit of, some ELA practice into there as well to make sure they get their spelling right. And then this was the question I really wanted to highlight. I've only recently started using these types of questions. They're really great. The multi-part question. These are really similar to the state standardized testing type of questions that they might have, where they are given some kind of a prompt or passage, or in this case, they are given these two graphs that they have to analyze. And it's probably a good idea when you first use these to do a practice question with your students, so they can just understand how to navigate through these tabs. But basically, I've got several questions that are related to looking at these two graphs. And you can make them multiple choice. You can make them, and I'm just not even reading these, but I'm just going through them quickly. You can make them different types, but it's really nice that it keeps this static while they move through the different questions, and they're able to kind of do that. So once I'm done with my questions, oh, there's another question. This is matching, which I really like. As you can see, it's really intuitive for the kids. They know when their answer is in the right place. It's highlighted. If they want to change their answer, it's very easy for them to do that. There's a resequence question, like she mentioned, so I can put these events in how the Constitution was signed and ratified into different order. So I put that into chronological order there. I find that I have to be very specific with my students that when I ask for chronological order, the first thing that happened goes on top and the last thing that happened goes on the bottom. For some reason that's not common sense for them. But and then classification is one of my very, very favorites. I found that multiple choice answers just don't really give students the opportunity to interact with the material the way they should be. So here we go with checks and balances. And then when they go to submit, it'll actually say, oh, look, you didn't answer this question. So students can actually go back. They can flag questions that they weren't sure about. And so right at the end, it gives them just a little check to make sure that they did what they meant to do. And then as they submit it, they automatically have their score. Unless it's something that you need to manually grade, they can see what they did, how well they did, and they can hone right in on it and say, well, what did I do wrong here? And it will show them, well, here's what you put, and here was your right answer. I use this all the time. I do Edulastic for my weekly quizzes, and then I tell them to use that. It saves it in their account, and I tell them to use that to study for their exams. So I really like how useful it is on the student end. I'm not able to show you on the teacher end, but when I go through and grade these, I can build a rubric in, and it actually will pull the rubric right up here to the side. And I can just very quickly say, like, 2 points for, excellent grammar, 2 points for a relevant response, etc. And so even the manually grading of like a written response can be done very quickly and very easily with Edulastic. So I hope that was helpful.